Does this sound familiar? You finish animating your first animation, you excitedly press play, and then you squeeze your eyes shut. There's something very, very wrong, but you can't figure out what. Don't put it in the trash just yet. Don't start doubting the life choices. Don't think that you picked the wrong hobby. It might be one of these 5 animation mistakes that I've made while animating. So if you're interested in finding out what mistakes I've made that might be the same ones you're making, listen up for the first mistake. Mistake number 1 is all about timing. And I'm not talking about timing sheets or landing the perfect joke or trying to space all of your drawings out so that it lines up perfectly to create that animation. No, I'm talking about this number 1 mistake that I've made, which is I try to cram too much into a small amount of time. Is this you too? No, because I know that I will say, yeah, I can animate a walk cycle across the screen in 3 seconds. No, it's absolutely impossible. And I keep trying to do it. And then finally, I realized the problem was that I was trying to cram too much into fractions of seconds. And the result of this cramming is that it made my animations look incomplete, rushed, and very unprofessional. Not something that a motion graphics designer wants in her work. And probably not something even a beginner animator like you wants in your work. But there is an easy way to fix this, and I've used these 2 methods over and over again. The first one is simply give yourself more time. Don't try to put everything into 3 seconds. See if you can extend it to 5 seconds. This might not work if you're trying to match through dialogue, but it's very easy to do. The second way to do it is just simplify your movements. You don't necessarily need a whole walk cycle, or maybe there's a different way that you could animate your character to get from one end of the screen to the other. One of my characters was a bouncing ball in the past. The idea that somebody came up for, because I was in a brainstorming session, is just having the character bounce across the screen like a bouncing ball. It's so simple, and it would have made the character move so much faster. This isn't the only mistake that I've made while animating, though. We're up to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is not using reference. Reference is magic. It's used to save time and effort. But I know in the past that I was not using reference, and this probably applies more to you. You might be lazy and self-conscious. I personally did not want to get up in front of the camera, and I also was telling myself, I'm not a gymnast. I can't somersault or do handstands or flips or, something that would require a lot of action. So I put off filming myself, and I just tried to do everything from memory. It didn't work. My stuff did not look good. When I finally started using reference consistently, like in this animation here where I used reference for the somersault, it made my animation look so much better when I was able to do that. And in today's day and age, if you don't want to film yourself both on camera, that's perfectly fine because you can go online to Google, YouTube, very useful because you just type in a few words and then you can find your reference of whatever it is you want. Somebody sneezing, coughing, pulling out a sword, if that's the kind of animation you're trying to do. Another way that you can do if you don't want to use YouTube, and I'll use this, is I will lift my hand if I'm trying to do a small movement and get a feel for weight dynamics. And then finally, the third way that I found is very useful for getting reference if you don't want to film yourself is just go to a mirror. This is very good for expressions like happy, sad, and if you have a bigger mirror, you can also do more movements like changing different walk cycles, like you're slumped over, and figuring that part out. And just quickly going over that again, the 3 ways that you can get reference if you don't want to film yourself. Google it, use your own body to test weight and small movements. Or 3, pull out a mirror and look at yourself and test expressions. Mistake number 3 is mismatched volume. This is all about your character gaining or losing weight with no reason. I found this mistake most commonly happened for me when I was doing squash and stretch. When you're squashing or stretching an object, the idea is that the object is gaining or losing weight equally. So if you're squashing your object down, then while the height decreases, the width expands. So if you're squashing your object and it's losing, let's say, 5 inches, and then it should be gaining 5 inches this way. I was doing it where I would squash my object and it would lose 3 inches in height and gain 8. This created that mismatched volume that made things feel off and made people look and be like, something looks wrong. Like to my eyes too. So if that's the mistake you're making, the easy way to do it is if you're working in a program like After Effects, just double check what the scale is on both the height and width. And if you're hand drawing this, then you're just eyeballing it to make sure that it looks fairly normal. I hope this is helpful for you so far, and if you really are enjoying the video, let me know by liking the video or leaving a comment down below. We still have 2 mistakes to cover. And if you can correct these, if these are the mistakes you're making, then it will just push your animation to entirely new heights. So let's get on with it. Mistake number 4, here we go. Mistake number 4 is animating on the wrong axis. This one's a little technical, but it is super important. I want you to imagine animating a bouncing ball. When a ball bounces, it bounces up and down. It also stretches up and down, except on the squash when it has that impact. But let's say that your stretch wasn't going like this when it was falling, but that it was going outwards, like it was in a squash position. It would look very off and wrong. But that's what animating on the wrong axis does. You stretch or squash or turn your character or object in the wrong direction. And it can make things look a little strange, a little off, and not something that somebody wants to watch. And it's not something you want to animate. But if you can correct this mistake, figure out, how do I put this? You want to figure out where the center of gravity is. You also want to be keenly aware of what axis you're animating on and how that axis is tilting. So if your character is turning the head, then the line that was previously here as the axis is now tilted here. It doesn't all of a sudden you tilt your head and your axis changes so that it's still straight. That one was a little bit hard to grasp. Mistake number 5 is no grasp on the basics. This really takes me back. When I was starting out, I thought the 12 principles of animation were so basic, so easy, and once I had the idea of them, I could just move on. It was fine. And who needs to know everything intricately? Years down the line, I am regretting that decision because I am trying to up my skills in animation today, and I'm going back to the basics to push them and grow even better. And I'm focusing on things like squash and stretch, anticipation, arcs, timing and spacing, and tasteful exaggeration. If you're watching this, chances are you're still early in your animation journey, which means that the mistakes that you might be making now, they're very easy to fix because you're the beginner. You don't have this boulder of experience that you have to try pushing to the side in order to fix these mistakes. And you can make your animations pop just by paying attention to these 5 things. The timing, reference, changing volume, checking that you're not changing the volume, animating on the right axis, and focusing on developing skills in those 12 basic animation principles. So which one are you going to start working on after this video? Can you comment below 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 and let me know? Thanks so much, and I hope to see you in another video.